the great privilege to have students who combine Hesder, Yeshiva, and Army. I once was at a meeting in Toronto with Rav Amital, and I said at that meeting, I want to ask a kasha that Rav Amital should give a teretz to. So I said our existence of our yeshiva is a contradiction, a kasha on the Gemara. Because the Gemara says, Isaifa lo safra, Isafra lo saifa. It's either the sword or the book. You can't combine both. There's yeshiva arranges regular visits to the army, and sometimes you have to travel quite a distance to go. And when you meet the fellows, they're very happy to see you, and then they arrange to have a shiur. Generally, you give a shiur. The fellows have worked very, very hard in the army, and generally they fall asleep. So people ask me, don't you feel silly? You travel so far to give a shiur and most of the people are asleep. And I feel it's worth it. You know, they get very little sleep. If I travel once to give them a little bit extra time to sleep, so it's worth it also. But the fellows appreciate the visits very much. And some Ramim go more often than others, but it's a very, very important thing to keep up the connection with the yeshiva while you're in the army. The yeshiva arranged the whole idea of the daf kesher because of that concept of keeping in contact with the fellows in the army. And the army, the students, while they're in the army, appreciate it very, very much. When I was in Toronto, so they offered me to televise an interview with me on a cable television program in Toronto. I agreed. I'd never been on television. It was a big opportunity. You know, your 15 minutes of fame. So I appeared on television. Apparently, this was the catalyst for a certain young fellow who otherwise would not have gone to yeshiva to come to our yeshiva. He had a religious bent, and he wanted to go to yeshiva, but his parents somehow thought that the yeshiva world was a very strange world. They had the image of the people with long coats, big hats, long beards, people cut off from the world who didn't understand the modern world at all. And they discouraged him from going to yeshiva. But then they looked at the program on television, they said, it seems the fellow's normal. He discussed his college, his graduate school work, he spoke English fairly well. So they said they took a chance, they sent him to yeshiva. And this fellow today lives in Eretz Yisrael and has children who different yeshivas and schools in Israel. And it just shows the influence of one short appearance on television can actually change a person's life. Well, to be mashgiach is a wonderful position because on one hand, you have a chance to meet with all the students, deal with all of them, discuss things with all of them. But somehow I felt that I didn't have anything concrete that I was doing. It's hard for me to imagine spending a whole day talking to people, and at the end of the day, what did you accomplish that particular day? Being a Ram in yeshiva puts a certain focus in your life that you have one specific shiur that you have to give, and for that, you have to prepare. I feel that you have to prepare very, very hard for such a shiur on the level that we give in our yeshiva. And then you have an additional responsibility of working with the students on an individual basis. But at least you have a strong focus point, which for me personally worked out better. I first came to Israel in 1960. I graduated high school from New York, Yeshivat Rabbeinu Yaakov Yosef. At that time, there was hardly any program at all of students coming to learn in Israel. The only yeshiva really that was what we would call a Yeshivat Hesder was, of course, Keren B'Yavneh. And they accepted 10 American students a year. My father was the one who began this program and arranged a scholarship for 10 students to come to the yeshiva. But the entire program of Hesder in Israel, there were only 100 students in Keren B'Yavneh. And there were 10 of us. We came by boat. It sounds today prehistoric that we came by boat to Israel. It took 2 weeks to get to Israel. And the boys learned for a year in that yeshiva. Staying Shana Bet, to the best of my knowledge, no one stayed Shana Bet. And the next year, another 10 people came. I think it was probably after 1967, probably when the explosion of students came, and now they become, I don't know, there are thousands of students here altogether in the yeshiva in Israel. But we were a pioneering group that came with only 10 students.